If you enjoy the work of old master paintings, you may have come across the word grisaille, perhaps on a museum plaque or in art history books. So what exactly is grisaille? Essentially, is a specific type of underpainting completed using only black and white paints. Traditionally, a painting is first structured in monotone to work out the shading and tonal shifts in the composition. The limit in color not only helps to clarify tone, but is also incredibly inexpensive. The limited palette meant that an artist could make necessary changes to the composition before adding and potentially wasting some expensive layers of color. The same benefits apply to modern classroom oil painting. A beginning painter's arrangement of found and repurposed vessels, simple in shape and painted in white and gray, is the subject for this high school painting lesson. For inspiration in how to set up a simple still life, I recommend looking at the works of Giorgio Morandi. While his paintings are technically not grisaille, they are incredibly simple and elegant. They're created using very little color. I have some objects here with me. Some are painted with white gesso, and some are naturally white or gray. Make multiple sketches of the still life. Walk around the piece, change your perspective and focus. Zoom in and out. I've made a photocopy of my drawing, so I won't ruin the original when I transfer it onto my gray-toned primed canvas. Just use transfer paper, center the image as you would like it, and simply use a ballpoint pen or stylus to trace around the image. Now, I've primed the canvas with a mid-tone gray acrylic paint. It's important to know oil paint can be used on top of acrylic, but not the other way around. See, acrylic paint cannot properly bind to oil, and we'll get to that a little bit later. The toned background will help students gauge their tone choices when painting. And it also just seems to be so much less intimidating than the stark white of a gessoed canvas. Now, it's time to get into some paints. Start with about a quarter-sized dollop of both white and black paint. I'm using Utrecht Studio Series Oil Color. These are made in our beautiful Brooklyn paint factory. Now, I like to put my paints on opposing sides of my palette paper. Mix the mid-tone first. When mixing the mid-tone, you will need more white than black because ivory black has such a strong tinting power. You will need to mix at least 5 tones, plus the full-strength black and white. Now, you may be wondering, why use oil paint? Can't this just be done with acrylics? And the short answer is yes. But there is really something special and different about working with oil paints. The piece can be worked on for quite some time before drying, and colors on the palette stay workable for days, if not weeks, when stored correctly. Oil paint also refracts light in a completely different way than acrylic. To get a little sciencey about it, the molecules of oil paint are smaller than that of acrylic paints. And that's why the acrylic paint cannot bind to oil, but the reverse works. This also means that light waves can penetrate the surface of the paint all the way down to the substrate. And in this case, that is our canvas panel. Then the light bounces right back out toward the viewer. This is why people sometimes say that there is a glow to oil paintings. The main concern with oil painting in a classroom is always safety. So you will be happy to hear that classroom-friendly, non-toxic Utrecht safflower oil and the Master's brush cleaner and preserver is all that is needed for color changes and cleanup. No harsh solvents necessary. Additionally, ivory black and titanium white are both made from non-toxic pigments. Now, good ventilation and an oily materials waste can are needed. This is not because of any toxicity, but rather oil at a high temperature can combust. Simply pour the oil into a silicoil brush washer jar. I love these jars because they can be closed firmly when not in use. Pour the oil until it hits just below the top of the coil line. Notice how the coil acts as a spring. When changing colors while painting, simply wipe off any excess paint, then dip the brush into the jar, press down slightly, just enough for the coil to let the oil flow on top. Gently wipe the bristles back and forth. The wire coil and the oil will completely clean the brush off. Wipe off any excess oil and you're ready to paint. This can also serve as the same source for dipping a brush in for clean oil if needed while painting. The pigment from the paint is actually heavier than the oil, so it will sink down to the bottom of the jar, leaving only clean oil at the top that can be used to paint. Okay, it is time to get painting. Begin using an all-over painting technique. Start with the lightest color first, and try to identify all the spaces in the composition that are the same shade. Then move one level up, and we will continue that way until the painting is covered, making changes and adjustments along the way. You may need to combine mixtures, creating a sort of tertiary mixture to blend and define certain areas. Mistakes can simply be wiped away. Paint can be applied with a brush or a palette knife. Dry time will vary depending on climate as well as the thickness of the paint. For all of the materials you saw used here, as well as the full lesson plan PDF with step-by-step instructions and oil painting tips, visit dickblick.com.